Throughout history, self-built vehicles have been filled with machines so strange and bizarre that they were never allowed to be seen on the streets. Cars that seemed like they came from another world, and their technologies were so amusing but somewhat unfortunate. Governments consistently never allowed these innovative technologies to reach mass production, from futuristic cars with nuclear engines to hovercrafts that employed airplane propellers. So why did these engineering marvels never achieve mass production? Because of cost, safety, or behind-the-scenes reasons? Today we want to talk about 9 of these darlings that, for suspicious reasons, were never allowed mass production. The Ford Nucleon. The Nucleon, an American craze, when the discussion is about strange and bizarre darlings, literally has its own flag, a car that was supposed to run on nuclear energy. There is absolutely no need for gasoline or diesel to power it, as it was specifically designed to include a compact nuclear reactor similar to those commonly used in modern submarines. Its design originated in 1958, a time when America was deeply interested in nuclear technology and truly believed they could literally transform the future. Yeah, from the toaster to the Ford Nucleon car, it was supposed to go thousands of kilometers with just one nuclear charge, without the need for refueling. But where was the problem? Could someone sneak up behind you and it might just fly away with you? Ford only built a conceptual model and never produced a real operational version. On the other hand, people weren't too thrilled about a tiny hovercraft following behind them. One could say that the Ford Nova was more of a reckless scientific nightmare than a futuristic car. However, it is still one of the most attractive and visionary race cars of Sanat Khuzurbak. Take a look at its appearance. It seems like a car that came out of a science fiction movie, the number 2 Lotus 56 car. Torwin is a racing car with 4-wheel differentials, equipped with an airplane turbine engine and emits a constant whistling sound. In the year 1968, the Lotus company decided to make a bold and innovative move by constructing a car that was powered by a turbine engine, utilizing exactly the same turbines that are used in airplanes. This car not only had a strange and unique engine, but unlike most cars of that era, it had 4-wheel drive instead of a rear differential. This means that for better traction and more control, its power was distributed among all 4 wheels. The body itself had a superb aerodynamic design, and instead of the roaring sound, only a constant whistle which could exceed 20. But why wasn't it produced? The story is that in one of the races, the Lotus 56 performed exceptionally well, but because it had too much power. Despite the fact that controlling the vehicle was quite challenging, a horrific accident occurred in which the driver tragically lost their life, ultimately causing this particular car to vanish from sight forever. And in the end, it led Fiedra 7 Racing to decide to refrain from using turbochargers, but still, after a few minutes, whenever someone asks, "What's the strange history of this racing car?" the name Lotus 56 is always on the list. It stands as one of those groundbreaking ideas which, had they been pursued further, might have revolutionized the entire automobile industry. Car number 8, the Phantom Corsair. One of the strangest and most beautiful cars in history, the Phantom Corsair, which was built in 1938. And repairing it at that time was a challenge for anyone. In some ways, its form was completely streamlined and its aerodynamics were sharp. Moreover, the concealed headlights and curved windows, which were integrated with the body lines, added to its appeal. Shortening the length of this car resulted in a length of 6 meters and a width of 2 meters, but its weight was only about 1,700 kilograms. Which, for its time, was considered lightweight, with a flat 6 engine producing 130 horsepower that was impressive in its day. Only 6 of these were built, and all of them never entered mass production due to extremely high costs and advanced technology. Today, this car is one of the treasures. Highly respected and much admired in the world of collectors, it is considered one of their treasures. Car number 4, Crucier Lair. Now you think this car must operate with a piston engine? It overturns all the rules. During its time, the Crucier Lair company built a car that had an electric motor. This machine also used a gas turbine and was just like those found in airplanes. It could ignite using anything from white oil to kerosene. The engine produced a sound similar to an airplane. Driving it offered a completely different experience. Approximately 55 units were produced and were experimentally deployed among the public to gather feedback. But what happened to stop its production? Firstly, the turbine engine had a very high fuel consumption, especially at low city speeds. And secondly, maintaining these engines was specialized and costly. And finally, pollution laws and heavy taxes for specific reasons made the project unsustainable in the long term. There is even a rumor that oil companies were afraid of this technology because the machine was not reliant on gasoline. Ultimately, during the Lira crisis, it was decided to destroy almost all 35 units, to prevent it from being copied or used. Now only a few remain in museums, and even when they are turned on, the sound of an airplane echoes in one's ears. Machine number 5, Chaparral TG. This machine was developed to cast doubt on the world's progress. The machine that when it entered the runway, the first thing spectators would say was, "Where did this come from?" It was built in 1970 and competed in IM for the first time. This renowned competition, the Corradvi rivalry, took place in 1966. Until 1987, it was in North America, also because of complete freedom in Formula One regulations, allowing teams to manage technology as much as they liked. They could handle their technology and engine power. The car's trailers were not lacking either, and 2 cup-shaped fans were attached at the rear of this car. So what exactly do these fans accomplish? These fans are constantly sucking air from beneath the car, which causes the car to remain firmly stuck to the ground. And this gave the car unmatched grip, allowing it to take corners at speeds where other cars would only see them as blurred and invisible. Even in testing, it was so fast that it caused the rivals themselves to admit. A famous meeting of these drivers protested, saying that as long as this car stuck to the ground, they would stick to their forms. These protests led the Racing Federation to consider declaring the fans illegal and banning their use in competitions. Essentially, they didn't outright ban it because it was so good, but since it was very effective, it was banned. In the end, this revolutionary car only competed for 1 racing season before being sent to a museum. Today, this car is recognized as one of the most revolutionary racing cars in history. Car number 6 is on par with all others. If the Chapald word was strange, adjust it to become familiar with its Formula One version. Rahabam Baito, 46B, a renowned revolutionary artist of Formula One. In 1978, the Brabham team, recognized as one of the most legendary Formula One racing teams in the world, executed a groundbreaking innovation that significantly changed the landscape of Formula One racing. One of the team's genius designers, due to the ban on the previous design, did not give up and placed a gigantic fan at the back of the car, exactly like what Chaparral had done. But this time, much more professionally, and at the Formula One level, this fan performed exactly the same function. The car would grip the ground, binding it to the track and causing it to propel forward like a rocket, so that when Niki Lauda, the legendary driver, sat behind the wheel, of the only 2 races it entered, it easily won first place. An interesting point here is that the Formula One Federation couldn't find any fault with it because the car was built according to the regulations. However, this time, like other teams, they felt they were being destroyed. They all unanimously admitted that the attention this car received, just like the previous one, led them to retire after the first race. So what was the official explanation? The fan causes excessive throwing of stones and dust, making it dangerous. But the truth is that this fan was so good that its competitors in Formula One couldn't handle its prowess and presence. Even its driver said, "We could have won the entire season with this car, but they forced us to retire." In short, this car, despite racing only once in history, became one of the most legendary and celebrated projects in Formula One. Car number 7, the Porsche 911 Team McLaren, returns to the 1970s and participates once again in several Grand Prix races in America, which was very strict with regulations and allowed the manufacturers ample freedom to innovate, and while pushing it was always your opportunity and advantage. They built something that in terms of power is still considered one of the wildest cars in history, a 12-cylinder turbocharged engine that produced up to 1,600 horsepower. Just to give you an idea, a new Formula One car already has 1,000 horsepower, and this is 60% more, achieving it in about 2 seconds with a top speed of 380. And the body is lightweight and aerodynamically designed like a bullet on the asphalt. A legendary driver, Mark Dunho, became champion in American races with this car and said all you had to do was give it a slight push to feel like the car was about to lift off the ground. But well, this heroic story didn't last long. Due to its excessive power, protests arose, and they said the presence of this car with such power in the competition, reckless disregard shown by the regulators. They also decided to change the strict and numerous consumption rules for the safety of the competition, and by relaxing these rules, the beasts were no longer allowed to participate in the race. All these incidents meaning these cars were too good, so they had to stop them by changing the race rules. And this project was also cancelled, leaving only a few demo and collector versions remaining, the 8th Firebird, famously known as the Chevrolet idea. If a car were to come straight out of science fiction movies, without a doubt, Firebird 3 is one of them. The story begins in the mid-1950s, when General Motors was aiming to showcase their vision of the future without any limitations and solely with pure creativity. This car was introduced in 1959. Introduced with 1959 fighter jet-inspired design. Because its large tail fins situated at the back were similar to those of fighter jets, and it featured 2 jet-like cabins. It featured butterfly doors and a wholly aerodynamic sci-fi body shape, though its appearance was unusual. The car lacked a steering wheel. The driver managed everything with one hand. Airplane-like hands guided everything. It had an automatic speed system similar to today's cruise control and sensors that adjusted the headlights based on ambient light. So why didn't it reach mass production? Because the car was more like a mobile laboratory than a street vehicle. Its turbine engine was extremely noisy, and the lack of a steering wheel was completely incomprehensible to the general public. Lastly, the technology of that time truly was not yet ready for such innovations. You can only see Firebird 3 in General Motors museums. The car number 90 Pilot 50. Is there a vehicle that only has space for one passenger and is even smaller than a motorcycle? This three-wheeler was built in Britain and only weighed 400 kilograms. Its speed, like Mohsen Loristani's songs, was at most 60 kilometers per hour. The main reason for this vehicle was the narrow streets and alleys and places where parking is very difficult. And it was really useful. Ultimately, limited features and new regulations caused its production to stop very quickly. The pride of this gadget is that once it competed in a city competition against bigger cars and performed well in front of you, you are good.